Reformation, a 16th century movement for the reform of abuses in the Roman Catholic Church, ending in the establishment of the Reformed and Protestant churches. Martin Luther, the key person during the Reformation, helped to change the church. His ideas caused the church to become outraged and caused the people to become educated and attack back. The reason for Reformation was because the popes during the Renaissance were corrupt. This caused the church to become corrupt and uprisings to occur. One piece of literature that changed the views of the people towards the church was the Bible that was translated into their own language. This gave the ability to decide what the sayings in the Bibles meant instead of having the church decipher them for everyone. From the Reformation came the chance to change your own Christian beliefs, which led to the Renaissance.
The Renaissance, the revival of art and literature under the influence of classical mottos in the 14th through 16th centuries. The newfound beliefs that came from Reformation and the ability to decide what their faith was, the people revived the classical ways of art and literature that were used before. These artists became very famous by creating paintings for the church and creating masterpieces that will live to this day and show just how powerful the church was. The Renaissance also sparked the beginnings of writers and poets. They began writing books about their faith and religion and what they believed in. Examples of these writers include Trystan and Dante. The new perspectives and forms of art allowed for increased quality in maps. These maps led to curiosity and desire to explore new routes, and eventually led to exploration of new lands east of Europe, the Americas. Exploration and expansion, exploring new lands for new beliefs, new resources, and religious zeal. A lot of factors caused the spark of the era of exploration, one being economic motives. Because of the increasing need of trade of spices from the east, overseas routes became more and more popular. Another factor was the want for rare and precious metals. One famous explorer was Christopher Columbus. The Spanish, with the leadership of Christopher Columbus, arrived in the Americas in October of 1492. Columbus's belief was that he could reach Asia by heading east and circling around the globe, something no other explorer or anyone for that matter had done. Exploration also led to the expansion of many empires, the most popular being the Spanish. The Spanish came to the Americas in search of gold and other resources, and found the indigenous people of the Inca and Maya Empire, who were later conquered and killed by foreign diseases such as smallpox. Exploration led to settlement and the formation of new governments in uprising countries. Philosophers began to question the way the government led society. This led to new beliefs and philosophies during the Cultural Revolution. The Cultural Revolution, the religious upheaval and the spiritual revival in Europe through art. One of the main things brought from the Cultural Revolution was the beliefs of the philosophers Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. One opposed the other, but their contributions to the world and the way they looked at social structure were equally respected and practiced. Hobbes believed that the world was free to whatever the law didn't forbid. He believed society should be ruled by the people. This was something John Locke did not agree with. He believed that there should be an absolute power, and that people of the society should agree to dedicate themselves to higher powers. These two men founded the way the world viewed government and social structure. Another person who was famous to come out of the Cultural Revolution was William Shakespeare. During his time, plays were becoming increasingly popular and became a part of their everyday lives, or their culture. Other beliefs to come out of the Cultural Revolution included different types of art. One of them was Mannerism, a type of art that ignored the laws of balance, harmony, and moderation. This was eventually replaced by a new movement, art, the Baroque, which started in Italy around the end of the 16th century and spread throughout Europe and Latin America. Baroque artists brought together the classic ideals of the Renaissance art and the spiritual feelings of the 16th century religious revival. New perspectives in social structure and the way people viewed society also led to people questioning the way we viewed the world and the way it works. This led to key contributions to the scientific community that changed the way we viewed the world forever. Scientific Revolution, a period during the medieval age when philosophers had to attempt and change their ideas and ways of thinking. When we think of the Scientific Revolution, we think of things like chemistry, geometry, biology, and things of that broad nature. But the contributions from the Scientific Revolution scientists go deeper than that, with the great breakthroughs in new philosophies and discoveries. One of the new philosophies in science was the geocentric conception being proven false, and that the sun was the center of our solar system. This was called Nicholas Copernicus' heliocentric conception. This may seem like not much, because we know today that indeed the sun is the center of our solar system, but to the people of Nicholas's time, this had gone against everything they had known about the solar system, making this a huge breakthrough in astronomy. This idea was supported by another great contribution and contributor to the scientific revolution, the improvement in telescopes made by the father of astronomy, Galileo Galilei. Along with the heliocentric conception, there were a lot of other discoveries as well, including Isaac Newton's universal law of gravitation and Johannes Kepler's idea of planetary motion, to name only a few. New discoveries meant new philosophies and beliefs. New people began to question their beliefs, and this led to an uprising in philosophers, which led to an era of enlightenment, questioning the scientific and mathematical beliefs and began to look at the new beliefs in social structure.
Enlightenment was the 18th century philosophical movement of intellectuals who were greatly impressed with the achievements of the scientific revolution. Enlightenment was a great influence by the ideas of two 17th century Englishmen, John Locke and Isaac Newton. Also during this time, the idea of a new government was being debated among many philosophers about the different governments in Europe and also about one that could be used for a better way of living. This way of thinking caused politicians to question their own government, which resulted in many governmental changes. These changes came mainly through the 1700s during a period called the Political Revolution. The Political Revolution was started in England during the early 1700s. It started with England trying to create a government that was better and more efficient than the last. This also started because of the new family that came into power, that never ends. During this time, America was on the fence about being controlled by England. After overthrowing oppressive rule, the colonies created their own government called the Articles of Confederation, which later adapted to the government America has today. Another big event was the overthrow of France. The French peasants were enraged and began to revolt because of the lifestyle they were living in. This lasted 5 years, with thousands of deaths resulting in a new age, the Age of Napoleon. England's turn of events caused the country to go bankrupt, but England had many ideas that changed their luck and caused them to lead the Industrial Revolution and thrive.
The Industrial Revolution was the rapid development of industry that occurred in Britain in the late 18th and 19th centuries that was brought about by the introduction of machinery. The railroad and steamboat were great in this and allowed products to be shipped from the south to the north and vice versa. This made supply and demand higher than before. Advances in technology, including the steam engine, finding of iron, and the ability to mass-produce items helped nations such as Britain and America expand. With the amount of production increasing, the demand for resources went up exponentially. Eventually, resources would run out and the need for more would lead to the conquering of other nations to find resources and export it in the beginning of imperialism. Imperialism is a policy of extending a country's power and influence through diplomacy or military force. During the Industrial Revolution, the lacking of resources forced countries like England and America to go out looking for more places that would help support the need to mass-produce goods that would eventually be sold on for profit. An example of some places that were imperialized were New Zealand, Australia, and Hawaii. These countries were imperialized for their location being in between important places such as Asia and Africa. They also held resources such as sugar, which was used to produce food. Places such as America, for example, already provided for indigenous peoples, such as the Native Americans. These people were ravaged with plague and sickness due to their inability to fight off the diseases their European imperialists brought with them. With the newfound resource holder and location for distribution, these nations advanced even further and eventually made the world much smaller than it actually was due to globalization and the interaction between countries through trading.